Okay, so I remember, like, the first, 6 or 8 weeks of Henry's life were, for me, some of the most difficult, stressful weeks of my life thus far. As far as healing from the labor and delivery, and then the lack of sleep, and trying to figure out breastfeeding, and all of that. Now, what is your perspective on that time period, those first 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, I did my best, which definitely was not perfect, but was I think a strong attempt at doing anything needed and supportive for you, but it wasn't perfect at all. And I think, a lot of, because with our relationship, right, it's very much, I work, and so I bring home the income, and then you manage the household, you manage the money, you manage the family, you manage the logistics, right? So you have a lot of responsibilities. And for me to do the job that I do, in the sales job that I do, I have to be very sharp, I have to be very alert, and so I can't not sleep some. So you actually did more than maybe a mom might normally do in those first, at least some moms, right? I guess there's probably a wide
Sure.
variety that moms do.
Yeah.
But you took care of Henry at nighttime, largely you. I think I did a couple times or whatever, but if it was during the night, and mostly he just needed a nurse anyway, so that's just what it was. But in terms of waking up and doing something at night, I think it was almost entirely you. Is that right? Is that what you remember too?
That is what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think because you're a light sleeper, so you would often wake up anyway, but
Yeah.
I would always try and take him out of the room in order to get him back to sleep.
Yeah, you did a lot of that, and I know he what was best for him was a lot of skin to skin, and so I would sometimes do that before we went to sleep, and then he'd fall asleep, and then I'd hand him to you, and then you'd do that. And I remember waking up a number of times, and you, I think you slept basically sitting up for the most part, with him skin to skin on you for the first month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, that went on for almost 4 months because he got put in that brace.
Oh yeah, the hip brace, that's right.
Yeah.
So he had the hip brace, and then there was that. So I mean, it was, there wasn't, we were fortunate to a degree, because Henry, got on our sleep schedule almost immediately, and he slept, fairly well, as long as he was well nursed, over and over again by you during the night. He would,
Yeah.
He would sleep and rest during that time.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit lucky that way. And then, but it was very, I guess my advice to any guys would be prepare yourself for yes, you are an individual. Yes, you deserve to express yourself. Yes, you are living and have emotions. But during that time, really don't, it's not your time to be expressive about what you think is good or bad or should be, or what's good, can it. Can it. It's not at all, it's not at all your time. Prepare yourself to exercise total self-control over any sort of flipping your lid or becoming emotional because you have lack of sleep, or you have this or you have that. You have to steel yourself to know that it's not your time. Your wife has just been hit by a train, is how you really need to think about it.
Yeah.
And there's, she shouldn't be walking most of the time for a while. She shouldn't be lifting things of any kind. And beyond that, if you think that your emotions are peaked, are stressed and strained, it's 3 to 10 times worse.
At least.
Right? It's 3 to 10 times or more worse for her, because all of the, now, so what's been happening during the pregnancy is, number one, her blood volume doubled. and her body swelled, and she grew an entire other organ, and then had hormone influxes of all kinds that you can't even fathom, that create all sorts of odd and strange effects in the body to cause this child to grow. All of these things are now leaving the body. There is dramatic change happening while she's healing, while she's been hit by a train and is recovering from that. So it doesn't, your life is to support her during this time. It's not for anything else. This is the epitome of, this is what you were born for. This is it. You're experiencing it now. So take that to heart in a very deep and meaningful way. And I know I get a little bit like about it. And maybe some of that is because I was imperfect at times. But part of it is because I've seen fellows, you know, I've interacted with a lot of people over years and years, and you know, I've studied philosophy in college. I've been a counselor, professional counselor, for a long stretch, and so I've interacted with a lot of people, and I've seen people's strengths and I've seen people's weaknesses, and I'm never angry with someone that I would be counseling who has a moment of weakness or has moments of weakness. We all do. So I'm just putting out a warning though, because it's, you know, you want to do right by the person who's just done this for your child and for you and for her. So
yeah, I think, okay, so from my own viewpoint, I think that my recovery was probably more dramatic than maybe many women experience. I've seen some women and they seem to just bounce right back, and I would say, like, every woman's experience is going to be different, and every couple's experience is going to be different. And, you know, I used to see these women bounce back and I'd feel like a little resentful, like it made less of my experience because I couldn't just like bounce right back. But, you know, for every woman that was like, you know, grocery shopping 10 days after they gave birth, there was also another woman who was even more, you know, distraught or uncomfortable than I was, or had more of an intense experience than I did. So there is that. There's a wide spectrum, and whatever someone experiences is what they experience.
I mean, think about it this way, right? We have modern medicine, but at times where there's not, women pass away. Women don't make it through childbirth. So
yeah.
That's the kind of event.
And especially when there is modern medicine.
Well, sure, for different reasons, or sometimes same. But the point is, like, that's the kind of event this is.
Right.
So treat it that way. Just because your wife or spouse or partner happens to bounce back, good lucky for her.
Yeah, definitely.
But prepare yourself for not.
Yes, for sure. And I thought I would just have an easy labor and delivery and an easy, you know, postpartum or whatever, and I was definitely shocked. I should have been, I guess, better prepared to just have things go a little more sideways. But actually, I thought of an anecdote, and I hope that you don't mind me sharing this. But I remember, I think Henry was about 6 weeks old, and so I was on maternity leave, and I had asked you to watch Henry so I could go take a shower. And it was like I had handed him to you, and before I got in the shower, I, like, you know, maybe did some dishes or something. It took me like 5 or 10 minutes before I got in the shower. Well, in that time, Henry starts crying. And so you had asked me, like, well, isn't he hungry? Shouldn't you feed him? And, you know, I was like, well, look, I gotta go jump in the shower. And I remember this sort of sternness came over you, and you called your friend Jared. And you were like, why isn't she, like, tending to our kid before she goes and gets in the shower? And Jared had expressed a similar frustration to you, and was like, like, his response was like, I know that seems logical to you and I, but the women don't, like, the women don't feel that way about it. They feel like they're going to do what they're going to do, and then they're going to feed the baby. And I think that's such an interesting anecdote, and a funny anecdote now. And it's just, when you've got a wife, or a girlfriend, a significant other of whatever kind, who's just given birth, and, they need 20 minutes or an hour to go do something, I would say, move heaven and earth in order to let them have that time to themselves. And if the kid is hungry, then figure out how to feed the kid, maybe there's a bottle or whatever that can be figured out so that the kid isn't screaming the whole time, obviously. But that would be my suggestion to any new parents, is to work it out so that even if it's just, half an hour or an hour every now and again, work it out so that dad can handle it. And if the baby cries the whole half an hour, then the baby cries the whole half an hour. And the dad's just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I remember now, for the first at least 3 months of Henry's life, maybe longer, his crying created such a I don't even know what emotion I would call it. A deep and powerful concern. I needed not to make him stop, but to supply whatever it was he needed in order for him to be okay again.
Yeah.
It was almost always mom and nursing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so and it would turn, if I couldn't get it satisfied, it turned into a very powerful anger. Because I'm like, look, there's, and right, and I don't, obviously I'm not disagreeing with what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm saying to guys, some of you might experience that. You might,
Yeah.
so be prepared for that. And my recommendation would be to get agreements ahead of time as best you can as to how this will be handled, so that nobody has to think about it in the moment. There are agreements already in place. There's not going to be a discussion at the time. Because there was a couple times where you and I got into very serious discussion.
Yeah, the emotions got heated.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah, I would also just say, if that's going on, crying is not going to kill the kid. I'm not a fan of the cry it out method in any way, shape, or form. And obviously a newborn, you wouldn't even do that even if you were for the cry it out method.
Yeah, because cry it out isn't a thing, because he's just hungry.
Exactly.
Almost certainly he's hungry.
But I would say, maybe dad can give the kid a bottle of milk. Mom can either pump, or there's formula, or whatever is, whatever the mom and dad have chosen to feed the baby can be worked out. And I would also say, the kid can cry for half an hour, and you can plop them in a stroller and stroll them around the block, and they'll probably just fall asleep. And it might help dad to not be so upset if the crying is upsetting. I think maybe for new parents, crying might be associated with pain, so you go the kid is in pain, or they're distressed about their needs. But crying in a newborn is just a communication, and granted, it can be a communication of hunger, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're so hungry that they're dying or in pain.
Yeah.
Just because they're crying, you know?
And for me, that's why it's hard to describe what really it was for me, and it could just be some sort of weird stimulus response thing. It was I must satisfy this thing. It was not that I thought he was hurting, although when I would consider it, I'd be like, his stomach is probably going, give me food right now.
Sure.
But all it was I have to fix this.
Yeah.
It wasn't I need this noise to stop. It wasn't anything like that. It was, I have to fix this for him, and no matter what. And so if we had it to do over again, I would not be able to walk him around the block for a half hour of crying until he chilled out. The bottle thing, I would fully, if that was prepared ahead of time, would have been no problem.
And we did work that out. I started pumping, and we started having bottles of it.
Yeah, I think we only had interactions like that one, a couple times, 2-3
Yeah,
times.
and I think that was like in the very, very beginning before I'd figured out like pumping and stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's right.